Liam, you've been traveling for some time, living in, you said a yacht, I believe you said, and also a motorcade. You're in Italy right now, southern Italy, which most of us are already ultra jealous of what I've just outlined. So, what got you there to doing that, and where have you been, and what's that life like? Are there good, bads, and uglies of that, or is it just all perfect all the time?
Well, this sort of life, I mean, I've been traveling without a home, if you like, for about 14 years, or since
Wow.
2011. Yeah, so 14 years. And it's been a variety of things. It started off with motorhoming in my home country, New Zealand. And then my partner and I, we took a one-way ticket to Europe. And then we spent 8 years sailing around Europe in our own yacht. We've had three yachts, one after the other. And then last year we sold that, and now we're in a motorhome and traveling around Europe. And early next year, we're currently having another yacht built, which will be ready early next year. So we're going to take up the sailing life again. And people say to me, wow, that sounds like the dream. But the great thing about it is you have one lesson to learn in life when you do this, and that is to accept and deal with uncertainty. And, everybody struggles with this idea that they're trying to create security in their life and create certainty. So people have goals and they have plans and they put structures into their life. But and it's probably something we might talk about, how life works biologically and naturally, and that the cause of our problems in our life is when we're being unnatural in the way we're using our life. But the natural flow of life is to go with life. So I've had the real privilege to learn how to deal with uncertainty, because when you're on a yacht or even in a motorhome, you don't know where you're going to be the next day. You don't know what in a yacht, you don't know what the weather's going to do. You might have to move. You might have a plan of where you think you're going to go, and then halfway there, conditions change, and you have to make a decision, all based on not really knowing where you're going, but you have to make the best decision as to where you think you should be heading. So these, of course, are all metaphors for how we should really live our life, rather than having this rigid, focused idea that life has to be a certain way, and we have to control everything and know the outcome of everything before we move in any particular direction. And all that does, as I learnt the hard way through my previous life, if you like, I learnt the hard way, all that does is keep you stuck, keep you with problems, which you're not supposed to have, and keep you really living way below your full potential. And probably most importantly, stop you from being happy, because that's
Mm.
what we're all here for. That's the purpose of life. That's why people do what we do. We're all trying to be happy, but that's what blocks you. It's this, you know, lack of security about where you are right now and faith in yourself. That's what keeps us stuck.
It's interesting, Liam. There's a lot of coaches and influencers in the world that are trying to force this type of a message on people, and it's a dangerous reality. When I say there are others who force it, you don't. You actually have a balance that reminds me a lot of how I look at life, which I'm pretty grateful for how I look at life and the way that I show up. But I go through your content, I see the way that you're poised. There's so much value and truth in these principles that you share, but they're also principles that are very, very dangerous because they're very, very powerful. And so a lot of people lean into the law of attraction with so
Mm.
much force and like, I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to get this liberty no matter what. And they end up costing themselves a lot in the process. What do I mean by that? As a single father of four, I do not have a struggle-free life. Right? I do not have no, like, there are frustrations that occur in the process. But in the way that you approach the subject, I feel the draw of, okay, the point isn't that we should have the easiest life possible, right? That we should avoid progress and that we're going to try to aim for an easy life, as much as it is the balance of embracing the value of our present opportunities and not getting addicted or stuck on somebody else's promise of routine or desire for controlling our outcomes so that we can somehow unlock freedom by obsessing over the direction of our life. So it's a really interesting reality for me to talk to you about, because most people who would present this idea for our show, I can see through them and see like, you're not even close. To what you keep shouting at people to do. You have unlocked something though. Some type of grace about you shows it. Do you see in the world? Do you see what I see in terms of some people trying to force this issue out there? And how do you what would you suggest to our listeners? How do you recognize the difference between what I call those who are pretending and those who are contending?
Well, it really comes down to one word, actually, and I think this one word is the cause of every problem in life, every conflict, every every stress and struggle in life, and that word is fear. When we have subconscious fears,
Mm.
that limits us. And and you can see this, as you say, in other people, when someone is genuine or not. It's to what degree do they have internal fears? Are they afraid of what other people will think? Are they afraid that they won't achieve what they think they need to achieve? Are they afraid that they're going to have regrets, that they're going to look back, or that they're not living up to some image they have of themselves, of being who they think they should be? So when people have all these fears, and most people have subconscious fears, it projects onto other people, doesn't it, as insecurity or lack of genuineness. But when we meet a person who has no fear, is really comfortable with who they are, is not out to try to impress anybody else, is just being themselves, and has the attitude, why should I worry or care about what other people think? I'm just going to be myself, and if people like it, good. If they don't like it, that's not my concern. My concern is not what other people think. My concern is how I feel. And when we meet people like that, they're very charismatic. They're the true leaders of the world. And I guess what I discovered through my life, and through making lots of mistakes, and through going through lots of struggles and things along the way, is that fear is the thing that blocks us from being ourselves, and therefore from really experiencing the life we're designed to experience. And when I learned how to let go of fear, that's when everything in my life changed. Because before, when I had all of these subconscious fears, my life was full of stress and problems and struggle and making lots of mistakes and having all these things show up in my life that I didn't want to be there. But when I understood that it was all caused by my subconscious fears, and I learned how to let go of those, and I had to lose everything I had to go from being a millionaire and having all my dreams, from having, I remember once, this particular occasion, walking into a house that I had just finished, or was just in the process of finishing. It was my dream home. Everything I thought I wanted in a home, I was putting the finishing touches. And I had two businesses. I had freedom to be and do whatever I wanted to do theoretically. And I sat down and I said to myself, I've done it. I'm living my dreams. Everything I thought I wanted, or my goals, here they all are. I've got the house, I've got the businesses, I've got the lifestyle. But I wasn't, but far from being happy and thinking, wow, this is amazing, I was completely and utterly miserable. I was so stressed because I had so many problems and struggles, things not going right in my life. And I said to myself, why is this? Is this what there is? Is this what I signed up for? Where's the feeling of living my purpose, and the freedom and joy and peace that comes from having all of this stuff? Maybe it would be better, and I'd be prepared to lose everything I have and start again if it meant I saved my soul. Because that's what it felt like. It felt like my life force was being drained out of me. And literally within a couple of months, I got what I wished for. I lost everything, had to move back in with my elderly mother and sleep on the sofa in the living room of her small apartment. And I started again. But what that caused me to do was change my relationship with this fear thing. And that was the one thing that shifted. And what I didn't realize at that time is this has a biological component. When I'm talking about fear, I'm not just talking about some esoteric idea. There's a science and a biology about how we're designed to be that ties in and that is directly related to this concept of fear.
Yes. Oh man, I'm just like eating it up. I was like, okay, there's so much value of what you're doing, and I don't normally have my guests go for that long, but I like wanted you to
I'm sorry.
continue. No, I wanted you to. Don't be sorry. You just poured gold all over us, like over and over and over again. So to break that down, because I was really just meditating on the underlying word for what you're talking about too, of authenticity. You talk, and this reality of fear that exists, and we all face fears. We all have the opportunities to make excuses, but the way you and I you talked about soul saving. I feel that, man. Like
Mm.
I really legitimately feel that. I'm like, yes, this is exactly what I want for my life, what I want for others. And you've managed to tap into the brain in ways, that I think are really important that most people don't explore. Um, I just can't wait to dive in further about the frustrations and the struggle-free success components. And I hope you come back. I'm already gonna say it. I hope I hope I can bring you on multiple times, because there's so much depth that we can go into in this, that I know that the visionaries out there, the entrepreneurs out there, they would be deprived of learning about this if they didn't have the chance to hear what we're going to explore together related to it. I don't think they will come across another learning opportunity like this out there. So thank you for being willing to bring it. I'm gonna go back to some of your roots on this. Liam, what are three of the resources that have helped you get to where you are in your journey that will help other visionary leaders out there?
Well, I could point to a few things, maybe some superficial things in some ways. There's a film that I think everybody should watch once you start to really, what we all need to do is we need to start questioning everything we've been taught about who we are and about the way life works, because it's all wrong. We've been taught that the problems are natural, that life is a struggle, and that we have to overcome all of the challenges, and they're good for you to have problems. And life, we're these frail, we're weak beings, that we have to earn the right to be happy, if you like. We don't deserve to be happy unless we work for it, unless we achieve it. And all of these things are
Hmm.
completely wrong. So
Yeah.
the most important thing for people to start thinking about is maybe there's something different going on here to what I think is going on. I'm busy out there trying to make my life work and getting on my goals and plans and learning all this new information, and talking to people and having coaches and mentors and doing all this activity. But what's really controlling my life? And what really controls your life, and I learned this only when I became homeless and my life went in a completely different direction, and instead of me chasing after success and trying to force things to happen, things started showing up in my life. So I was homeless, I had nothing, and a business literally came and put itself in my lap. Now, it didn't mean I didn't have to put any effort into growing the business and working on it, but it just sort of came to me. I know that sounds really weird. And then an amazing relationship came to me as well, into my lap, if you like. And then another business. And before I knew it, there I was. I remember this experience in the Greek islands on my own boat, own yacht, in a beautiful bay. Sun was shining, woke up in the morning, just fell off the back of the boat to have a swim. And as I got out of the water and was drying myself off, I thought, I've got a couple of businesses that are operating for me, doing really well. I don't have any problems and stress in my life. What I have is the feeling that I've always been looking for, that I was looking for when I was in that house, my dream house, and that I never got. And that was that feeling that I am thriving. I am being my best. I'm being who I'm supposed to be. I'm in the flow, if you like. We talk about being in the flow, being in the zone. That's the feeling that I've been looking for all my life. And here it is. And it hasn't come to me. I haven't got this through hustle and struggle and getting out there trying to, set goals, because I wasn't setting any goals. I wasn't going after any opportunities. I wasn't, really forcing things to happen. So how did all this come about? I said to myself, and that's what really I decided I need to figure out what really was going on, not what all the gurus had said about the law of attraction, because I'd done all of that stuff, the law of attraction and spirituality and goal setting and reprogramming your subconscious mind and visualization and affirmations. I'd done that stuff for years. I'd been a success junkie. I had all the books. I'd been to the seminars all over the world, including your fine country. I'd done all of this stuff, but it hadn't solved my problem. It hadn't taken away the this feeling that I wasn't really being myself. I wasn't being the best expression of myself. And I wasn't getting rid of my problems, because every time I got rid of one, another one came along. And then, of course, everything just collapsed into a heap. And that wasn't on my goals list for sure. So I needed to figure out what was different. And the difference was, the thing that I overlooked is that we are all fundamentally, we live in a biological, natural world. We are controlled by laws of nature. And we might think that we can force something to be different to what it is, but we can't. It's like saying, I'm going to stand on a 10-story building and I'm going to meditate, pray, use all of these visualization techniques and reprogram my brain and all those things. And I'm going to convince myself I'm going to walk off this building and I'm going to go to fly up into the air. Now, there have been people through history who've actually done this, who've tried this, but nobody's succeeded. And why not? Because the law of gravity is going to take over. So we're governed by the laws of nature. That's just one of them. But nature has laws about who we are biologically and how we're supposed to operate. And every living thing, and every biological scientist will tell you this is the case, every living thing has one primary purpose, and that's to survive. Every living thing is wired primarily to seek to survive. But how does something survive? What gives something the best chance of survival is thriving. In other words, the better an organism is, the more chance they've got of surviving. So we're literally wired, like every other living thing, to be our best so that we have the greatest chance for survival. That's nature's purpose for us, for every living thing. And for us, of course, thriving doesn't just mean being healthy physically. It means being mentally and emotionally and spiritually our best as well, which means being happy. It doesn't mean struggling. It doesn't mean having problems. And this isn't just my idea. This is logic. This is natural biology. Nature doesn't operate on struggle. It operates on thriving. So everything's wired to do this. And so we have to ask the question, and I asked the question, why was I not thriving and why am I now thriving? What's the difference? And why is it most people aren't thriving? Because if you say to people, once they realize their biological purpose, the way they're wired to thrive, the question becomes, why aren't we? Why do we have problems? Why are we so unhappy and feeling that we're not where we should be? And what it comes down to, and again, this is something I'd never heard from any of the gurus, is that every living thing has been provided with a mechanism, or I call it a machine, which has a purpose to make sure that this happens, and that's a brain. The brain is nothing more than a biological machine whose sole purpose is to make sure that you thrive, be the best that you can be in every area of your life so that you have the greatest chance for survival. And that is biology. Yep. And this I'm not talking here about spirituality or any esoteric idea. This is physical stuff. Yeah. And so I started to explore about how the brain works, and I realized that most of us have been using it the wrong way. And what happens when you use a machine the wrong way? You get problems show up. Things try and drive a motor car and you don't know how to drive it. You're not going to get very far. You're going to end up with all sorts of problems. You're probably going to burn out the engine. Does this sound familiar with our life? You're going to do all these things that are wrong, and it's purely because you've never been taught how to drive it properly. And the irony with the brain is that it's as simple as that. It's actually simpler to drive it the right way than it is to drive a motor car, because this is supposed to be natural. We're supposed to do this naturally. We're not supposed to have to go and sit on a mountaintop for 30 years and learn how to live naturally and thrive. This is all inherently in the makeup of how we are designed biologically. And it's only because we've picked up all of these wrong ideas, all these people, and not through their fault, have told us all the wrong ways to drive the machine. And that's why we end up in this dysfunctional state where we're not thriving.
It's interesting. There's a lot to add there. I'd add one other component though to it, that the brain to me is everything that you said it is, and right. I'm going to add an and to this, and the heart. Those two things go hand in hand. They're so overlooked, and to me, those are the two superpowers that we have access to. That one of the things that I see happen with a lot of people out there is this has a lot to do with that wrong nature of programming that Liam's talking about, right? You see men dive into business experiences where everything logically feels right and everything seems perfectly on point, but the men like to say that they had a gut feeling. right? They ignore the gut feeling though, and they move into the no-brainer opportunities, and next thing you know, they're on the curb, without an opportunity that went very well. And it's has to do with their ignorance of the value that the heart plays. And again, we're talking about physical components. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a neurologist. I'm not a cardiologist. I don't have access to all of that data, but there's something that feels right for me about understanding the connectedness of intuition and the centeredness of the heart. On the flip side, a lot of feminine individuals, this happens often to females, where they get involved in a relationship based on, oh, it feels so right. Oh, I prayed about it and I felt like he's the right person, even though friends and family and others are recognizing, like, well, wait a second, you're not seeing this guy clearly. Maybe you're overlooking some of the logical components of the relationship, and how many end up in abusive relationships, and yet use the guise of prayer, or use some feeling to justify an illogical action. I think our superpowers, personally, for me, lie in being able to recognize when an answer or a direction for my life is so strong that my heart and my mind are aligned. And that's when I know my intuition's certain. Do I get that every time? No. Do I have to make decisions where it only makes sense logically or where it only feels right? Of course, I have those opportunities. And this goes hand in hand back to, I would say, just gratitude. That's one of my secret powers for having a struggle free success and making sure that I don't get frustrated, is realizing that, as Liam talked about, I believe that. You said nature's purpose is to help us with our survival. And we have so many opportunities to move from survive to thrive. We have a lot of great resources out there, and we have far more distractions than we do great resources. So that we've got to figure out where we're going to go, who we're going to turn to. Liam, I caught one of your three resources: start questioning who we are and what we're taught. Were there two others hidden in there? Because there was also like 20 others that I picked up on, but were there three specific ones?
Well, I got a little bit off track, perhaps because I was going to talk about a film called The
Oh,
Matrix.
The Matrix.
And
There you go.
and when you think about if anyone hasn't seen The Matrix, you should need to watch it, because what it's really relating to was what I was saying, is that there is that
Yes.
what we think is real is quite different to what is actually real. So in other
Yeah.
words, our brain's perception is presenting to us a version of reality that, whether it's real or not, the point is it's what we think. It's not what
Yeah.
necessarily actually is.
A
And that film
simple
makes a
version
very
of
good.
this, right? A simple version of this would be the people who assume, oh, Jackson doesn't work in business or can't work in business because he has long hair. Right. That is a reality that somebody can convince themselves of, and really trap their body, their mind in, and not realizing that, no, that's not the case. Richard Branson has long hair. Right. We put ourselves in these weird boxes of control. We don't have to do that. What's the other what's the second resource?
Well, the second resource is a book that I discovered many years ago called A Rich Man's Secret by Ken Roberts. And we could talk about why this is, again, the reason why I think this is such a powerful resource probably needs a little bit of explanation. But essentially what that book teaches you is how to live a natural biological life for success.
Let
And
me
he
do
doesn't.
this, Liam. I'm gonna save you a connection on this, because those you listening in, the resource comes from the master architect of his life. And if you want to find out how to use that book to unlock your secrets, then my invitation is to you is connect with Liam. Give him a contact. Find out why and how to use that book in the process. I already trust your judgment on this, Liam, and I will probably follow up myself on this book. What's the third one, though?
Well, the third one also relates to, actually, it's my best friend. It's my wisest advisor. It's the person I always turn to when I want help, or when I want the answer to any question, and it always has the right answer, and that is my own innate intelligence. And some people call it your higher self, but actually it's a biological resource and a tool that's a part of you. And it'd be good to explain it a little bit about what I mean, because your brain actually has four separate components and I've created a 4-part brain model which explains this, which in a layman's term, without all the science, but it's all backed by science. But essentially you have a part of you that is there, that when it's the way you're biologically designed to live is with this part of your brain activated all of the time, with a few exceptions which we can talk about. But I call this part of the brain your natural creative brain. And if we want to talk about it a little, you'd probably relate to the fact the pineal gland. This is where it's centered. And spiritual traditions, science is actually catching up to spiritual traditions to realize there's an awful lot more to this part of the brain than we've ever realized. But you mentioned before about gut feelings, or listen, whether you follow that inner voice. This is all activated. That sensation, or that tool, if you like, is activated in this part of the brain. And this part of the brain also activates things like your creativity, your imagination. It's where you see new opportunities. It's where you get those aha moments, where you suddenly see something that you'd never seen before, and you realize that's something that could really help me in my life. And it's where we get this intuition from, where there's no logic behind it. We haven't sat down and we've tried to work something out. We just get this new idea. All of these things come from this part of our brain. This is a biological thing. And the interesting thing about all of those things we're talking about, it's also where your motivation comes from. And it's where great artists and performers, they've all described the state of being in the flow, or being in the zone where success is almost effortless. They just do the right things. If they're an athlete, they perform on a level where they're putting in the effort, but it's like something else is helping them. And if you talk to any songwriter or a composer, and throughout history, they've been asked this question: where did the music come from? Where did that great piece of music come from? They all say, I've no idea. It just came to me. I just wrote it down. I don't know where it came from. This is all centered in this part of our brain. This is all activated in what's called the creative brain. And when you have this part active in your life, that's when you thrive. Because when you think about it, if you want to solve problems, if you want to see the right thing to do with your life, if you want to be on the right track, if you want to make sure everything flows, you need motivation, creativity, imagination, aha moments, intuition, inspiration. You need all of those things. But if you don't have those things, you stay stuck. And the reason you don't have those things in your life all the time, and I'm sure we've all experienced this occasionally, is because the way you're using your brain is you're blocking that part of your brain. You're activating a different part of your brain, which has a different purpose. But when you activate that for the wrong purpose, which, in other words, you try and run your life without your creative brain, that's when you end up with problems. That's when you end up stuck. So, and this is all scientific and biological. It's also spiritual, because in the Bible it says, do not worry about what you shall eat, drink, and wear. It will all be provided for you. And it also says, seek first the kingdom of heaven, and everything else will be added. And where's the kingdom of heaven? The Bible tells you the kingdom of heaven is within you. This is your creative brain. This is your link to an intelligence beyond yourself that is both biological and beyond biological. And it's how you thrive, by accessing these resources. But if you just sit there, well, not sit there, but if you don't activate that part of the brain and you're trying to force things to happen in your life, and you're saying to yourself, I'm so afraid, what can I do? What's the answer? How do I solve this problem? What should my goals be? Why am I so unhappy? Why can't I think straight? If you're stuck in that state, it's not your fault. It's just that you've activated a different part of your brain and you've shut down your creative brain. And that's why you stay stuck. It really is as simple as biology.
The beautiful thing about those of you in the audience, you are closer to unlocking this than most people in the world. The fact that you're a visionary, that you're here and that you're listening to these types of conversations, you haven't shut that down. And the opportunity is to exercise it more and more. I, again, can feel how powerful this is as a musician myself, as somebody who's been writing songs since I was a kid, and being, it's easy to take for granted the superpowers that we may already have access to, especially when we're just kind of lost in the shuffle of life itself. My hope is that you hear and you embrace all the things that Liam are talking about right now, and that you look within yourself to activate this kingdom that he also talked about. And it's not something you have to do. It is something that you have the tremendous opportunity to do. And so learning how to lean into that. Again, Liam's going to provide some greatness on this show today. I've been sitting here imagining, Liam, I want to someday do like a 3-hour podcast session with you. where we can just like allow you to flow on all of this and explore fully, kind of like Diary of a CEO style. Great podcast, by the way. Or what's his bucket? Andrew Huberman, Joe
Hmm.
Rogan. Like that, I want to see you on those shows too, because you have this gift of being able to expound upon experience over experience of how to connect all this stuff, and we just can't sum it up that fast. So Vision Pros, I am really eating this up, and I'm excited to dive in as much as we can for it. We're going to take a little bitty break, and we're going to come back and dive deeper, as deep as we can. If you've got comments or questions, leave those too, so that we can get to those. And I got to say one last thing, and that's I'm excited to plant the seed of passionpro.org with Liam as well, because one of the things that we have unlocked, we have this silly assessment that I created years ago. And I mean, I was a 0.33 GPA kid, Liam. I wasn't designed for school and for studies and all of that. Yet I've given this assessment to a number of different leaders to see, like I saw them as here, way, way up higher than me. And I was down here, and they did this assessment for passions, and it exploded a brand new vision for them of, oh my gosh, I know what I want to do with my life now. And I was like, wait, I wanted their feedback. I wanted them to see if this is something that could help teenagers, but it's turned out to be a super powerful reality to help people unlock the brain and unlock their purposes at greater levels. So anyway, I look forward to bringing that up. I can't wait to dive in deeper. I'm going to cut for the break. I'm starting to ramble and bromance a little bit, but Liam, this has been absolutely amazing already. Vision Pros will be right back. All right, welcome in to Vision Pros Live with Jackson Calame. I'm your show host. We will be doing interviews for visionary entrepreneurs and guest leaders who are building fantastic visions out there. Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Jackson Calame, the show host of Vision Pros Live, founder, CEO of First Class Business as well. I'm going to do something different. My team's probably not going to catch what the heck I'm about to do, but we need Liam's time right now. Liam Naden, he's amazing. He's unlocking struggle-free success and helping people get past frustrations. I've loved this. I'm going to do this as fast, and I've never done this before. Dave Morrow, hardtokill.org. Oportunidades de Trabajo para Latinos. Check it out. The Water Project. We love the Water Project. We hope you get back to it. Without further ado, though, Liam Naden, we're going to dive right in. So welcome to Vision Pros Live. And thank you, man. You've already just blown me away with so much goodness.
Oh, thank you. I'm really enjoying the conversation, and I'm hopeful and very confident it's providing some value to your audience, which is the most important thing.
Absolutely. Now I'm going to give the context of what you do through your own website, and the words that are on there. I love the copy and content that is on there because it's very authentic. That's very easy to tell when a business does not have the combination of this is really what happens. But I'm going to ask a question that I hope we can dive into deep. What's your vision for those you serve? What is it that their life can look like on the other side of the equation? Not even just bridging the gap. What does the island look like that they're trying to get to, and how does that feel to get to where things are struggle free? And they're no longer bothered by the frustrations that typically overcome us in life.
Well, I think it comes down to an understanding of who we are. On the outside, what that means is living without fear. And when you live without fear, you live your authentic self. Because what happens when you don't have fear is that your creative brain takes over. And as I like to say, you let yourself off the hook, and your creative brain leads you down the fastest and easiest path for you being the best that you can be, for you thriving. And that's different for every single person. So it's not so much what people are doing on the outside, it's what you can feel that they are projecting from the inside, that they are projecting the passion, the peace, the sincerity, and the gratitude as well, of really living and knowing on a deep level, not some superficial level proving to themselves they're successful, but knowing on a deep level they are truly being themselves, and they have no fear about their life. Because the most tragic thing, I think, in humanity, if you like, is we don't understand who we are and how we biologically work. But if you really think about it, we've got this brain that's doing quadrillions of different things every second, and we're not worried that it's not going to do it. Why don't we try and figure out how this, if this brain can keep our body alive, it's how can it make us thrive? It's a 500 trillion microprocessor computer, the most powerful computer. It's far more powerful than all the computers on the planet that humans have created. And it's designed for one thing, to make you the best that you can be, to make sure that you thrive, that you are happy, that you're living this unique and exciting life. So all you need to do is allow it to do its job. And that, so my vision for the world is that people understand this, and instead of worrying about what's going on in their life, or worried about the future, or worried that they're going to do the wrong thing, or trying to figure it out, they realize they've got this incredible machine that is going to show them. It's going to make sure that everything works out fine. And this is the true meaning of faith. You know, all throughout spirituality and religious traditions, we're taught, have faith, believe, trust, allow, let go. You can't do that unless you understand. It's a bit like driving a car. You're not going to enjoy the ride if you don't know that the cars coming the other way aren't going to hit you, or that the car is going you're going to be able to control the car. You can't do it until you start to understand. So my vision is that people understand this, and when they understand it, then they're really going to be able to let go and have faith, tap into this part of their brain that knows exactly what they want, what they should do in every moment, how to avoid problems, avoid stress and struggle, and make sure that all of the good things show up in your life, and you act and do exactly the right thing at the right time. That would be my vision.
Wow. And as you can tell, I'm the one using this screen share thing right now, because I'm just eating up everything that you're reading, everything that you're talking about, everything that I'm reading about this. The relationships helps that you bring to people, and how centered all of this is. I love too how you've managed to unlock that harmonic balance between an appreciation of faith and an appreciation of science, and I guess we can call it biology. Were you always like that? Have you always had that recognition, or what led you to figure that out?
Well, I was brought up a Christian, and the first place I looked for success, because I was always a sort of person who wanted to have a great life, probably like all of the people listening or watching, is the reason you're listening to this is you don't want to settle for a mediocre life. You don't want to just get up in the morning and go to work and say, well, that's just my life, and that's the way it is, and I've got all those problems, and they're normal and natural, and you want a great life. So I was always like that, even as a child, but I was brought up in a Christian family, and I was told, I thought it was the truth, was that if you want something, if you want to have a great life, if you want to, do what you want to do, whatever it is, just ask God, pray to God, and God will give it to you. And actually, I really tried that. I remember once, just to tell you a funny quick story, when I was about 10 years old, 9 or 10, I thought, I'm going to try this one out. I'm going to test God on this one, because they tell me it works. So I can't remember what it was. I think it was a competition at school I wanted to win. I just picked an idea, and I thought, I'm going to test it out. Now, I was only 9 years old, so, all of these distinctions weren't coming to me particularly, but this is the thought process that was sort of going on. I'm going to test this one. I'm going to say I want to win that competition, and I'm going to go to mass at 6 o'clock in the morning in the middle of winter every day for a month. So I'm going to show God. I'm going to go to mass at 6 o'clock, and I'm going to pray. And I don't know what all the old ladies in the church thought. The other half a dozen people who were there. This young boy coming along every day to pray through mass for this one thing. I never shared it with anybody why I was there. They must have thought I was very religious.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't win the competition. And I remember thinking then, well, hang on, this doesn't really work, does it? We've been told this. And I looked around at my parents and my all of the people in the church, the priests and my teachers, and I thought, it's not really working for them either. So this isn't the answer. I need to look somewhere else. And that really, I went and looked in all sorts of directions, all sorts of self-help areas and spirituality areas and meditation and different things, the law of attraction and all these things. And I really study these to a great degree. I'd go to seminars and workshops, and I didn't just I didn't just read the book or do the seminar. I really read it, and I took notes at the seminars, and I applied all of these things as much as I could. And somebody once said to me, all you need to do is you put down what you want on a piece of paper or a card and read it as often as you can. Read it at least 10 times a day. It's called a goal card, and you visualize it. And if you say it often enough, it'll show up in your life. I didn't just read it 10 times a day. I read it hundreds of times a day. I thought, if this is the answer, I want to see if it is. It didn't work. None of these things really worked, as I said. And I realized why many years later, when I was starting to do things that did work, what the missing link was. And the missing link was I was using the wrong part of my brain to try and make all of these things happen. That's what was keeping me stuck. If you haven't got the machine working right...
I gotta argue that a little bit, though. I'm gonna argue a little bit on it, and we'll see if it comes full circle. We'll see if we agree to disagree, and that's okay. I completely disagree that prayer was the wrong part, and that the wrong part of the brain, if that's what you're associating. And the reason why is because it's a very normal, human, and immature way of looking at prayer. The guides you had told you how to use the tool wrong. And so there's a deeper level of connection that's not explored, in that, one, we're not supposed to pray for our own will to be done. There is somebody who will grant us our own will. And if we're too far off track with our purpose in life and our spirituality, then for me, there's a force named Satan who will grant me everything that I want. If I'm willing to go that far away from my God. And so it can happen. And that's what scares me for people related to this, because I see a lot of people doing that to themselves, and they end up with these magic trick lives that only leads them to an utter destruction later, that they're like, oh, so I think, in my opinion, God gave you what you needed in your circumstance, where you did not need to win that competition. And what did that lead you to do? It led you to keep exploring and looking for new opportunities. And you started to use those, but there's some inner reality about, in my opinion, of your spiritual nature that allowed you to keep plugging away and finding new additions to the equation. Because Job didn't, if any Christian really looked at the Bible and really understood the perspectives of what's there, Job was not guaranteed success. It was the exact opposite. And he learned to accept that, you know what, it really doesn't matter what my outcome is. I'm still going to worship God. I'm still going to praise God. God giveth, God taketh away. It's not about the outcome. It's about the internal. So I just want to stand for the Christians listening in, and say that I don't want them to feel like we're tarnishing the value of prayer. And I don't think that's what you're doing. No. But I want it to be clear as day right now too, just in case we don't have time to circle back to it. So Liam, please continue and feel free to add your perspective to it, because I do see, again, the secret powers of all the things that you're starting to reveal.
Well, here's the thing about prayer and God, and what science or biology might call universal natural intelligence. I mean, they're essentially the same thing, because right. Who is God? God is everything. So God and God is infinite. So therefore God is everything, and God is also infinitely intelligent. So whether you call it God or whether you call it nature, we are talking about the same thing. And both of those things have a purpose for our life, which is for us to thrive and be the best that we can be. From a Christian perspective or a religious perspective, God doesn't want you to have problems and unhappiness in your life. God wants you to thrive. You're here for this great experience. But God can only give it to you through the tools that God has given you, which is using your brain the right way. And when it comes to prayer, the essential difference between thriving and not thriving is this thing we talked about before. It's fear. So if you pray with a subconscious fear, which in my case was, well, I need to prove that works, because if I can prove that works, then I'm going to be all right. I can use that anytime I like to get anything I want. So all of my insecurities are going to go, because I know that I can, I want to be a millionaire. And how often do we see this? People set a goal and they go to somebody who says, I can show you how to achieve any goal. Yes, you can be a millionaire. Of course, anybody can, but all they're doing is honing in on people's fear, because people think I need to be.
They're validating the fear.
So it comes down to your brain state. So if the right way to pray is when you have no fear, because then you know, because when you know with certainty that your biological purpose, two things. One, your biological purpose is to be happy, not to struggle, is to thrive in every possible way. If you know that's your biological purpose, and you also know there's a 500 trillion microprocessor that's designed naturally to make that happen, then you're not going to have any fear. And you're going to know that everything that happens, your brain is going to make sure that it's the right thing that happens at exactly the right time. And you're using all of these resources. And then the actions that you take are always going to be the perfect actions, because they're not going to be based on fear. You're just going to do the next thing, that you're just going to be in this thriving zone state without overthinking it. And what we've got hung up on in society is this idea you have to know what you want. You have to figure it out. You have to have a vision for your life. No disrespect to your show, but it's a vision. Yes, you can have a vision for your life, but if it's based on a fear, which means
Correct.
I need my life to be different to the way it is for me to be happy. I need to have this money in my life, and when I get it, then I'll be happy. When I solve this problem, then I'll be happy. That's all based on a fear. It's not based on an understanding and a trust in something that is infinitely intelligent, that is going to make sure all the right things happen. And that's what happened to me. It's when I got rid of that fear, and I said, because you know what I essentially said when I lost everything? I said, I give up. I don't know why this is happening. I don't know what to do. I don't care anymore. If whatever's meant to be is meant to be. So I gave up this attachment. I gave up my subconscious fears about things needing to be a certain way. And that's when my creative brain, which is you very rightly point out, is connected to your heart, because it is from your brain, but it's an expanded system.
Yeah.
When I allowed that to actually do its natural job, then it could start to get me to make the right decisions. It could start to bring the right people into my life, the right situations, and I came up with the right ideas. It could only start to really go to work when I did that, when I allowed that part to happen. And could I just say one other thing about prayer, and if we're talking about that, and it relates to this whole idea of goal setting, because people say to me, we have this absolute obsession with goals. You know, everybody says you need to have your goals. You need to be have a plan for your life. You know, to make sure that you need to figure out what you want. Well, the funny thing was, that's what I had in my old stressed life, was I had all the books and the plans. I'd been to so many goal setting workshops and read so many books. I had all these techniques on how to set goals, and I had all these books of goals and visualization boards and all of these things, but my life was a complete mess. And one of the things I did in my new life, which I still do, is I don't set any goals. And when I was on the boat in the Greek islands, I said to myself, how come when I did all the goal setting and the hard work and the trying to figure it all out, my life was a mess? Now I'm not setting any goals. I'm not going after any opportunities. It's like, if you want to use another way of describing it, instead of chasing after success was chasing after me. Mm-hmm. Things were just showing up in my life, and they happened with such frequency that I got to the point of saying, there is something else going on here. This isn't just luck. And what it comes down to is this idea of how nature works and how God works through you, if you like. And if you think about the laws of nature, and going back millions of years, nature has had a long time to figure out exactly how to make all of this work, how to make the world work in a way that keeps it going, if you like, makes it thrive. One of the things, what I call one of the three laws of natural success, of the way nature works, is the law of conservation of energy. Everything in nature is designed to give the maximum amount of result with the minimum amount of expenditure of energy. And that comes back obviously to natural processes that, millions of years ago, for us as humans, we mightn't even been able to find food for a week. So we had to find a way to conserve all of our energy so that we still had the energy not only to survive, but to catch the food when it showed up a week later or whatever. So all of nature operates on this. And the more you study, and I'm lucky because I'm in nature all the time, traveling around all the time, I see, and I really observe this, everything is thriving, but not with effort, not with struggle. If you watch a bird or an animal or an insect, it's just doing its thing, and it's finding the food when it needs to. It's not a struggle. So there is this efficiency. So if we think about it from our own perspective, what is the most efficient way biologically to make sure that we thrive? Well, the way it works is, imagine if you did know what you wanted. So when I was lying on my mother's sofa, if I'd used one of my fancy techniques, or, to figure out what I really wanted to do with my life, and I'd come up with this, what's really going to make you happy, Liam, and make you thrive is you're going to go sailing around Europe for 8 years, and then you're going to buy a motorhome, and then you're going to buy another, and you're going to be learning about all this stuff to do with natural struggle-free success, and you're going to start sharing these ideas with people, and you're going to learn about the brain and in ways that other people haven't, that you haven't thought of, or that other people haven't thought of, most people maybe, and you're going to start sharing these ideas. You're going to be a teacher, and you're going to help people from around the world to really see life in a different way, and release all of the struggle and start to see much better results in their life. And you're going to be talking to amazing people like Jackson Calame from all around the world and sharing these ideas with people. Now, if I'd written that down, I would have said that's utterly ridiculous. What are you talking about? For two reasons. One is I never thought it was possible. Sailing, yeah, well, I have done some sailing, but I don't know about sailing around Europe or the world or whatever. And teaching, I don't know how to teach anything. I don't know how to. I've had staff training in businesses, but I've never really taught people. It doesn't really appeal to me. And the brain, well, yeah, who's interested in that? So if my brain had said that, I firstly wouldn't have thought it was possible. And the other reason was I didn't even know that's what I wanted. It was way out of my idea. And I've talked to many successful people about this idea, and I've said to them, what you're doing now and all the success, is that really something that you ever thought you would get? And they all say pretty much, not really. I don't know how this happened, because it wasn't on my goals list. I met a multimillionaire a while ago, and he said if he'd had a goals list, that would have limited him. So what your brain does is it doesn't show you that, because what are you doing? What was I doing?
I have to wrap it up, Liam. But
yeah.
It's those of you listening in, this is why I want the 3 to 4 hour podcast with Liam. It's not a fair context when I have to play color commentary and only talk about the things I disagree with. There's so much there that I do agree with as well. And my hope is that all of you listening will meditate and ponder the healthy balance of, as we talked about, prayer and understanding that it only works according to our ability to exercise it and understand the depth of it. Same is true with goals. Goals are fantastic, in my opinion. Maybe I will join Liam's boat someday in relation to that and really move all the way against goals. But there's a big difference between unhealthy relationships with goals and having healthy relationships with setting goals. And most of us are doing it wrong. And so if we don't learn to look at the perspectives differently, we might not. Then there's Jimmer Fredette, who, wrote that, as a kid, he was going to be in the NBA. And Jimmer Fredette did. He became college basketball player of the year. He didn't make it to the NBA. Maybe he should have wrote that he was going to be the best in the NBA. But I love Jimmer. Grateful for his story. So there is opportunity for manifestation, and there is opportunity for moving our lives forward. But these are incredible superpowers that can hurt your life as much as they can help, just like any other resource that exists. A cliff can be a beautiful place to take a picture from, and you can fall off of it too. So we've got too much to explore in order to really wrap it up. But I really do, I'm going to be exploring your resources, Liam. I'm going to be diving in quite deep. I don't typically do that, not just with the guests, but I've got too many things that I need to produce and get out there. I don't always feel drawn to need to dive into people's content. In the case of yours, I'm going to be doing a lot of research on growinginloveforlife.com. I'm going to be diving into some of these, this Get Unstuck Fast download. I'm going to be talking to other leaders and connecting you to them as well. That's one of my exploratory methods of assessing what's the quality and value of this leader and of these resources that I came across. How well do they relate to people in my life, who in some areas of their life have greater strengths of perception than I do? So those are the types of actions I'll be taking, Vision Pros. We'll have the action steps below the episode. Below that, we'll also have a breakdown of the resources that Liam shared today. And this was an absolute honor and privilege. I hate to rush for the next appointment. But Liam, thank you for sharing so much value today. And Vision Pros, reach out to Liam and find out more about how you can unlock your stress-free life and tap into the full potential of your brain. Liam, we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Jackson. It was great to be here. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. All right. Welcome in to Vision.
Thank you for being here today. I'm really happy that you tuned in to Vision Pros Live. I'm looking forward to seeing your reactions as these episodes continue to move forward. This is going to get more and more fun. We'll have more engagement as well. We'll invite people to participate in the show. And thank you for giving us your time and attention.